Good afternoon. My name is Max Parker. I'm president of the San Angelo Independent School District Board of Trustees, and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's meeting. As president, I would want to also welcome those who are watching the recording of this meeting online or on our public access channel, Suddenlink Channel 4. We appreciate all of you and your interest in our students. I'm going through a script right now that we read at every meeting that sets out some of our protocols. All items that will be discussed at our meeting this evening have been posted as required by state law. Also, as you may be aware, our board meets a minimum of 2 times per month, and most, if not all of the items on our agenda this evening have been previously discussed at our earlier pre-agenda board workshop that was held last week. As members of the SAISD Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from our superintendent and administration, approve budgets, contracts, and personnel appointments, and to make policy for the district. Please keep in mind that our meeting is a meeting of the Board of Trustees held in public, not a meeting of the public. However, prior to taking any votes on any agenda item, I will ask audience members if they would like to make any comments. Anyone wishing to make comments on any item should do their best to limit their comments to 5 minutes or less. Also, we have an item on every one of our meeting agendas that allows anyone present who wishes to speak to our board team on an item not on our agenda an opportunity to do so. But you need to fill out one of the forms in the back over here on the table if you do want to speak on an agenda, on an item not on the agenda. And you also need to limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. Also, please understand, if you do speak on an item that isn't on our agenda, our board cannot reply to you since what you're speaking on has not been posted, except to thank you for your comments. In compliance with state law, these proceedings are recorded and will become a part of SAISD's permanent legal record. In order that the recording will adequately reflect the proceedings, I will ask you to please refrain from talking while others are speaking. I'll also ask, as I remind myself and my fellow board members, to please turn off or silence your cell phones now. Again, it's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's meeting and thank you for taking time to join us. We appreciate your interest in the activities of our students and the business of our district. I've looked around here. We have, Lupita leave?
Oh, yes, I think she did.
Okay. Well, Lupita was here a few minutes ago, but all our board team is here. I appreciate them being here. We do have a quorum. I think she had another meeting that she had to go to, so Ms. Arroyo was here and had to go to another meeting. We had photographs taken earlier, and also we had a, I don't want to call it a retirement party, but for one of our communication directors that you'll meet in a minute, Whitney Wood, we had a reception for her earlier. All right, at this time, I want to ask Major Angel Calderon, who's with the Salvation Army of San Angelo, to come forward and lead us in our invocation.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this wonderful night. And Father, thank you for the opportunity to come to this meeting tonight. You know the future of this city. You know the importance of this meeting. Father, thank you for this wonderful community. Father, we need you. We need your guidance in every decisions that we're making. Father, we put in this meeting in your hands. And Father, we asking for your blessing. You know, Father, that we need you. We love you. And Father, we put in every single decisions that this board making. We put in your hands. And Father, we like to say thank you. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Major. At this time, we have some elementary students at McGill Elementary who will lead us in our pledge to the United States flag and the Texas flag. I'd like to call forward Dunley Flores, Mariah Medina, and Jaden Tapia. And would everyone please stand? Parents, you can come forward to do photos. Thank you again, elementary students. We always appreciate you when you're here, because in the summer we don't have our students, and it's I think it adds a lot for our pledges when we have these students that are here. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Rodney Chant, who's our Director of Athletics, for some recognitions of some of our Central athletes.
Thank you, Mr. Parker, Dr. Deathloff, board members. Tonight we will conclude our recognitions for our fall sports. And tonight we have the Bobcats of Central High School football team with us. Coach Crane could not be here tonight. He is on the board of directors for the High School Coaches Association, and just so happened that they're having their board of directors meeting today and tomorrow, and so he was not able to be here tonight. But we do have Josh Willis, the defensive coordinator and assistant head coach, who will be doing the introductions for the Bobcats.
Loud enough. I don't need a microphone. Y'all come on up. As these guys are coming up here, I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about our season. We finished the year 5-6, got beat in the first round of the playoffs. We had 4 players selected as first team all-district, 4 more players selected as second team all-district, and then a total of 12 players that were honorable mention. We had 2 players receive first team academic all-state, 2 more that were second team academic all-state, and 5 that were academic honorable mention all-state. Over here, coaches, we've got Bobby Braden, coaches our safeties. Billy Rogers is our offensive line coach. Jake Myers is our running backs coach. Paul Crossway is our offensive line coach. Zach Clack, defensive ends coach. Stephen Jewell, defensive line coach. Truman Reagan is our receivers coach and freshman coordinator. Braden Price is our special teams coordinator and safeties coach. And Caden Coots is our offensive coordinator. And these are our 2022 San Angelo Central Bobcats. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I sure can. Start right here. Say your name. Name and grade.
Isaac Enos, senior. David Deller, senior.
Junior Calamafoni, sophomore.
Sterling Cummings, senior.
Eric Martinez, senior.
Evan Arnold, senior.
Joshua Ersbendi, senior. Andrew Gonzalez, senior.
Jared Arguin, senior.
Will McClendon, senior.
Connor Moriarty, senior.
Keegan McPherson, senior.
Trey Ramirez, senior. Darius Floyd, senior.
Hayden Martinez, senior.
Seth Mariano, senior or junior. Wow.
Ben Emler, senior.
Landon Cali, senior.
Tyler Walker, senior.
Logan Engel, senior. Luke Gold, senior.
Jacob Saldivar, senior.
Aiden Barone, senior.
Peter Cagano, sophomore.
Tyler Hill, senior.
Luke Staley, senior. Junior. Braylon Roundtree, junior.
Malik Cates, junior.
Cohen Warkala, sophomore.
Isaiah Allen, junior. Oh my.
Brighton Sandor, junior.
Abel Ramirez, junior.
Carmelo Emilio, junior.
Braden Hymus, junior. Coulter Farmer, sophomore. Tyree Brody, junior.
Thank you.
As you can tell, this is a pretty fun group. They really are a great group of guys. We were pretty senior heavy this year, but these guys laid a great foundation for the classes underneath them, and we've already got started in off season, and we sure do appreciate these guys for all their hard work. So thank y'all. Take a knee. They'll do it. They'll take a knee. Front row, take a knee. Front row, take a knee. Probably front row, take a knee. Front row, two big steps. There we go. Cedric, lead the way.
My hands are shaking. We just, Becky and I just kind of bow out. Congratulations to y'all. Well, it doesn't matter at all.
All right, we have, while I recover my hand, those guys
Strong
are
boys.
big, strong boys,
Yeah.
I can tell you.
I'm just proud of them taking a knee. We were trying to figure that photo out too.
All
So,
right. Well,
Mr.
Whitney, this is when we'll turn it over to our communication department, Whitney Wood and Molly Turk, for other recognitions.
Yes. Well, Mr. Parker and distinguished members of the board, we follow that recognition of our outstanding, hardworking student athletes from Central with one to celebrate one of our SAISD difference makers who does so much to ensure they have those opportunities for competition, learning, and success, our Executive Director of Athletics, Rodney Chant. We are incredibly proud for Coach Chant. He is one of only 4 members selected for a prestigious honor from the Texas High School Athletic Director Association. It was recently announced that this June he will be inducted into the 2023 Hall of Honor class. SAISD was blessed to welcome Coach Chant to lead our athletics department and join our cabinet leadership team in 2020. That year, he also received the distinct honor of being named the 2020 Athletic Director of the Year. We are certainly grateful he is part of our team at SAISD and recognize his dedicated service, leadership, and special contributions to our athletic programs and the State Interscholastic Athletic Administration. Please join me in congratulating Coach Chant on this well-deserved honor.
And Whitney, while Coach Chant is coming up to the lectern there, I just want to add that this is a really big deal. This is an incredible statewide honor. I believe, Whitney, were there only 4 other inductees, I believe, this year. Some of those inductees include Dr. Susan Elsa, who is the Director of Athletics for the UIL University Interscholastic League. Also, another person that was honored recently at this induction ceremony was Jim Walsh, who is the founder of Walsh Gallegos Attorneys and Law Firm, who probably represent, I would say, probably 1 million or 1.5 million students in the state of Texas and school districts. So this is an incredible honor. Rodney just continues to be not only just a stellar leader, but just an incredible person of character and integrity. So we were delighted to have him in our school system, and his connections statewide pay off for kids in San Angelo. So thank you, Coach Chant, and this is an honor, and thank you for choosing SAISD.
Yes, Dr. Detloff, if we can get a photo. I know we don't have the hardware yet. I guess he'll get that in June, but let's just get a photo. I'm sorry. It's fun. We're proud of you. There you go. There'll be a good one in there.
Oh, come around the circle.
Yep. You know the drill. All right, some other good news. So we continue this evening's recognitions. We are so proud to live in a community where the spirit of generosity is alive and well. And it was so wonderful to see it in action for our 3rd annual San Angelo Reads Day in celebration of our community-wide literacy initiative last Wednesday. Tonight we have a recognition honoring all of our generous community partners who contributed to our San Angelo Reads Day success, with a special thank you to our friends at Whataburger and HEB. Whataburger partnered with us as part of their Feeding Student Success program to gift an inspiring new book, Sky Color, to each and every one of our 3rd grade students to celebrate the day and inspire a love of reading. As you'll recall, statistics drive this initiative, including the importance of being on grade level reading by 3rd grade. So that is why we always do a giveaway to our 3rd graders on San Angelo Reads Day. Whataburger's Feeding Student Success program empowers students on their educational journey and made for a perfect collaboration to promote and encourage reading and help us to do the good work of getting books directly into the hands of San Angelo children. In addition to the books, they also added to the fun of the day with a special visit by What a Guy and Sarah Marston for a read aloud, bookmarks and snacks for Holloman Elementary, and participated in our first ever San Angelo Reads North Pole pop-up community event that afternoon. HEB, led by Katie Kennedy, also came in to support us in a big way with crucial funds that will help us to continue to get books directly into kids' hands next year, and adding fun to San Angelo Reads Day, like book giveaways school-wide at 3 elementary schools, an HE Buddy campus visit, and participating in our pop-up event as well. Like San Angelo ISD, HEB understands the importance of reading and even has their own HEB Read 3 literacy program that encourages families to read to children 3 times a week. We applaud and support that as well. We simply could not make San Angelo Reads Day or San Angelo Reads initiative as effective or fun for our community without generous community partners and supporters of public education that care about San Angelo, like Whataburger and HEB. With sincere appreciation, tonight we also recognize our 2022 San Angelo Reads partners, including First Community Federal Credit Union, the Adult Literacy Council, Angelo State University and ASU Phi Kappa Psi, Atmos Energy, Card My Yard, Chick-fil-A, Concho Valley Retired Teachers Association, Concho Valley Transit, Diego's Burritos, the City of San Angelo and Mayor Brenda Gunter, who helped us kick it off on City Hall steps, Enchanted Parties, Fast Signs of San Angelo, Gandy Inc., Howard College, Kixie 94.7 FM and 100.1 Cool FM, KLST and KSAN TV, Kona Ice of San Angelo, Lamar Advertising, Longhorn Coffee Company, Nothing Bundt Cakes, Region 15 Education Service Center, the San Angelo Fire Department, the San Angelo Police Department, the San Angelo Schools Foundation, Scholastic Education, Shannon Medical Center, Southwest Outdoor Advertising, Texas Parks and Wildlife Game Wardens, the Tom Green County Library System, the United Way of Concho Valley, as well as our many SAISD folks, from campus difference makers to folks here at admin, with a special appreciation to Tiffany Hebner, Roxanne Fentress, Jory Weimers, Jason Jones, Joshua Bailey, Tony Kennedy, and my hardworking communications team, Molly, Jack, and Alba. And last but not least, we again thank Whataburger and HEB, who we have invited here with us tonight to accept our appreciation. Tonight, on behalf of the awesome Whataburger and HEB teams, we have joining with us Whataburger Representative David Boney. You can come up at this time. And HEB Representative Katie Kennedy. If you can please come forward, we have a small token of our appreciation that Becky's going to help me with. You'll even see some custom-made bookmarks by our McGill students and a commemorative copy of the book that Whataburger helped us to give away. We sincerely thank you for your commitment and dedication to San Angelo and our students, the future of San Angelo. Dr. Detloff, if you will please join us at this time. We're going to do a quick photo, and then after we do that, we're going to play a Facebook Reel video that will give you a glimpse of our wonderful 3rd annual San Angelo Reads Day. So keep reading San Angelo and enjoy the reel in just a moment. That concludes our recognitions for this evening.
Thank you, Whitney. All right, we are continue on with our agenda. We now need to approve our minutes for November 7, 2022, our pre-agenda workshop, and November 14, 2022, our regular board meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
I'll second.
All right, was that you, Mr. Gallegos? Yes. All right, Mr. Gallegos made the motion, Mr. Dindle seconded it. Is there any board discussion? Any public comment? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion passes. As I mentioned earlier, when we opened our meeting, this is the time for anyone that's here that would like to make public comments on topics not on the agenda for our meeting tonight. If you want to make any comments, I don't think anyone signed in, but if anyone's here, come forward. I see no one coming forward, so we'll continue. We now have reports. Mr. Henry?
Dr. Detloff, Mr. Parker, thank you for having us tonight. Tonight I have Park Hill, Smith & Cooper with our facility assessment, and I have RJ Lopez, and he's going to give us a little presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. President Parker, Dr. Detloff, and the board, it's great to be back. I've got a relatively short presentation for you tonight, giving you an update on the sustainability plan. As you know, we've been having town hall meetings over the course of a few weeks with great turnout at each location, probably say between 20 to 40 community members coming out and quite vocal with a lot of questions and really engaging during those town hall meetings. We'll continue to have those over the coming weeks, and I believe our last one will be in January 12th virtually. So we look forward to those. We have questions over the process that have come up. We've started trying to develop some of the content that's available online and for the town hall meetings, just to have, you know, we've been doing this over the course of a year, so there's been a lot of conversations and a lot of things that have led us here, and we want to make sure all of that is available for questions and for community members as much as possible. This is the process and schedule we were previously showing with some of the large milestones. We've added additional information onto that to talk about some of the steps that we've been going through ever since February of 2022. So this starts expounding on, you know, data collection, what does that mean, analysis, field observation, talking to principals, talking to the cabinet, you know, everything we've been doing over the course of the year, as well as those board presentations and staff workshops that have occurred along that schedule. We're starting to develop, you know, we have maybe a couple hundred pages worth of facility assessment documents, but trying to concise that down into easily communicatable information with frequently asked questions that we're seeing during the town hall meetings. One that we've shown here as just an example is why keep Reagan as an elementary school and make San Jacinto a pre-kindergarten. One of the first things that we looked at was that Reagan is quite a bit larger than San Jacinto, with about 4,742 square feet for additional student capacity. So quickly you can see that more students would fit at Reagan. San Jacinto, like a few of the other schools, has experienced a substantial reduction in student population over the past 10 years, especially when compared to Reagan. So you can see the blue line there charts Reagan from about 450 students 10 years ago to a little over 250 currently. And during that same period, Reagan's only dropped about 11%. So we've done these same studies across all of the elementary schools, and that's part of the reason that we're looking at Reagan becoming the elementary school. Another reason would be the available site and land. Reagan has quite a bit more available land. It has current drop-off drives and access that prevent the visitors and parents from having to use main streets around the campus. So these are just a few of the things that we've discussed that have kind of led to the sustainability plan as it is today. And we want to make sure that these are documented and available to the community more easily online. So I won't read through all of those, but those will be available shortly, and those are some of the frequently asked questions. In addition to those, similarly, we'll be having a kind of a quick write-up on each campus, such as Austin, some of the advantages and disadvantages of repurposing or closing. We want to make sure that we're noting all of these items that have come up during the town hall meetings, and that we're discussing those as well. You can see on the right hand is the disadvantages that have come up over the past year and during the town hall meetings, such as obviously losing a small community school would be a disadvantage of repurposing Austin, or a farther commute for students and staff. Another item that's come up quite a bit is just additional bus routes as well once you start moving around some of the school attendance zones. Some advantages that we've talked about quite a bit, and what kind of spurred some of these conversations, is just the continuous maintenance on, say, a 1929 facility such as Austin. We already discussed some of the decreasing enrollment at San Jacinto. Austin has also experienced similar decreasing enrollment over the past 10 years. Much of the structure is original and wood construction, and so this has increased maintenance cost as well. Same thing with utilities and electrical, plumbing items throughout the facility. So those are some of the facility improvements that could be made with closing Austin. There's also the opportunity for more teacher collaboration in a larger school. Say, if Austin went to McGill, there's opportunities for additional makerspaces, STEM, enrichment opportunities in a larger school. And then just more students within each peer-to-peer collaboration area, and opportunities for learning exchange. So there's some exciting opportunities and advantages for combining these schools, and we want to make sure that this information's out there and that we're discussing these at the town hall meetings. I believe that's where we're at now. So do y'all have any questions regarding?
Yes, sir. RJ, for our viewers, this is a recorded meeting that's available to our public. Would you recap the, I believe it's the San Jacinto to Reagan slide that you had, maybe 3 previous slides? If you'll provide a recap on that. And then also just for our audience, Park Hill Architects, or West Texas Architects, they're based in Lubbock, and they also have members that live in San Angelo. They also have really extensive experience in working with many large West Texas counterpart districts that have also experienced an enrollment loss. So we hired them, as RJ mentioned, nearly a year ago, to do a thorough assessment on all of our facilities in SAISD, and they have come up with these recommendations. So I'll let you just share some of these frequently asked questions. Also, the benefit of our town hall and public forum meetings are that they generate excellent questions from our constituents. And so when we field these questions, we go back and even search additional data points and look at the resources we have to try to provide an answer and response for these, but it helps us get better and provide more clarity in our planning. So we thank all of our members that have been participating in those public forums and town halls. But if you'll just do a quick recap, RJ, on this slide, and then I'll turn it over to others or board members that may have additional questions or insight.
Okay,
Thank
yeah,
you.
no problem. The recommendation, I believe, over the past couple board meetings has been to go from 17 campuses to 14 campuses, and that's part of the sustainability plan and the facility improvement plan. Reagan becoming an elementary school that merges San Jacinto students as part of that, and San Jacinto becoming a standalone pre-K facility is part of that sustainability plan as well. So the opportunity at Reagan is that it is a much larger site at 7 acres, which TEA actually recommends 10 acres for a new elementary school. So both current sites are relatively small for a new elementary, but as far as the existing elementary schools go, it is quite a bit larger and would have an opportunity for a new elementary school in the future to be actually built on that site. And so we're thinking about, if we're making these moves now where these students are moving from San Jacinto to Reagan, we don't want to have to move them again in the future if a new facility or when a new facility is built. To discuss the additional on-site parking, a newer facility would have multiple drop-off drives and multiple parking spaces that would prevent parents and students from having to walk across the street or be dropped off on a main street. So Reagan has more of those opportunities. And then San Jacinto also more recently received ADA upgrades that would better accommodate pre-K students and students with special needs. So there was a lot of thought that went into these moves and these students coming together at either Reagan or San Jacinto. Else?
Any other questions, board? I'll let the audience know that we visit with you guys from Park Hill last week, both in open session and in some in closed session. So some of the things that you're showing now are things that we've had questions about, and ask you to update your presentation on addressing some of our questions. And then you've given us more handouts here at our desk also. So as we get more questions and we present the questions to you, then you get us more answers and more information also. So we're learning when we go to these town hall meetings, and I want everybody to know that. That's one of the reasons that we want those that have questions to come and learn with us and ask your questions so that we can tweak any of the plans that or any of the suggestions that you guys are made. And you live in Lubbock or Abilene? I've forgotten where you're
I'm
from.
in Midland.
You're
actually.
in Midland.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know some of the architects are driving down and visiting with us from Lubbock, and you're going to be driving back to Midland. So I know
Yes, sir.
you've been spending a lot of time with us here in San Angelo, and we appreciate it and appreciate you being here tonight. So any other questions, board? If not, thank you for being here.
All right. Glad to help. Thank you.
Safe travels.
Dr. Bright gave us our student enrollment report last week. You have anything further, Dr. Bright? Okay. Are we okay with our enrollment? I know it's down a little bit less than maybe what we predicted, but we're still okay budget-wise? Okay. All right. Now I'll turn it over to Dr. Gomez, update on academic programs.
Mr. Parker, Dr. Detloff, and members of the board, This evening, for our academic report and update, I'd first like to start off by recognizing Mrs. Huddleston, Dr. Self, Dr. Skelton, and Mr. Kallenbach for the work that they do with working with our principals. Dr. Self is not here this evening because she's actually at Lakeview supporting our ambassadors in an event they have this evening. So otherwise, she would be here. So this evening, Ms. Huddleston's also going to join me, and we're going to give you all an update. You heard us at the beginning of the year talk about something new we've implemented this year in part of our SAISD roadmap, and what we're referring to as our ABC quarterly evidence review meetings. So ABC, we like to simplify: attendance, behavior, and course performance. And I'll turn it over to Shelley. I'll jump in. We'll go through this and give you an update from the first quarter. They've also already scheduled these as we are nearing the end of the second quarter. When we come back from the break, they have these scheduled, but these meetings are instrumental. So they are sitting down with campus leadership teams, asking very specific questions around attendance, behavior, and course performance, and then setting action plans based on the needs of the campus specifically. So Ms. Huddleston, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Thank you, Dr. Gomez. As Farrah said, this has been a really great opportunity to have good conversations with the leadership teams. And part of what happens in these meetings is it gives you an opportunity. Oftentimes, we spend a lot of time talking about individual students and the data on individual students, which is critical to knowing what each student needs. But sometimes it's very helpful to kind of pull up and take that 10,000-foot view of what's happening across the board on our campus. And so as you got to hear last month when Kevin Hazel was here from Panorama, we have an excellent data dashboard in Panorama that allows our principals to have more of that 10,000-foot view of what's happening on their campus as a whole. So I'll give you an example as we start this talking about attendance. The very first campus that I sat down with their leadership team, I said, well, okay, let's talk about does your attendance look like? And they said, well, our attendance overall has been about 94%. Well, that sounds great, but let's look at this. And then they said, and here, this student, this student, this student that we're really having attendance trouble with. I said, okay, that sounds great, but how about we look at it, let's just look at it, for example, by grade level. Well, then what happened in that conversation was, oh my goodness, our 4th and 5th graders have fantastic attendance, but our pre-K and kinder have really low attendance overall. So that began that conversation on that campus is what's happening with our pre-K and kinder kids that we need to look more carefully at attendance. So we did this with all 24 of our campuses. And then we came back and we put this all together as district aggregate data. So that's what we're kind of just giving you. There's so much more that's part of this, but we're just giving you some highlights. So for example, district trends on attendance, you see that across the entire district, our highest attendance was our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders. Our lowest attendance overall was with our littles, our pre-K students, and our freshmen. Our elementary principals are concerned about how many of our students come habitually late to school. And so, that used to be another thing where tardies were something that we had a little bit more teeth in, but it's something that we're working on, like what are some other positive things that we can do when it comes to kids being late. And then in high school, I'm gonna let Dr. Gomez talk a little bit about some interesting things we found out with high school.
I know we've spent a lot of time recently, and especially from the pandemic, talking about where students going. So we've looked at that data. With high school, we do show about 43% of students withdrawing to homeschool. And so our concern is, are they doing anything when they're leaving the system? That's a true concern for us, because eventually they're likely to come back having not been engaged and then making students up. But that percentage for high school is concerning. And so reaching out to those families, trying to get them engaged somewhere. And that is a new trend that we have found since the pandemic.
Last one right there about kids that are being withdrawn and for homeschool. Is there any way that we can make sure that they are being homeschooled? Is there nothing the state requires for the parents to do to?
Unfortunately, that was a change. So used to, we also had more teeth.
It was the tardy thing, not the tardy thing, but the missing school truancy thing. So, yeah.
So they do have the option to do that. They have to say where they're going, and they have to provide documentation. But once parents do that, that is an option that they have.
And so just as we talk about these are immediate things that we did in response. So as we had these meetings, then we came back, we talked as a cabinet team about these district trends, and then what are some immediate responses. So we met again with our school service workers and our at-risk coordinators to just continue to make that push of daily phone calls and home visits, encouraging better attendance. Also our continued partnership with Everyday Labs, sending out letters and then text messages to parents. And then we've talked a lot over the last couple of years about our multi-tiered systems of support. And so we started MTSS really focusing on academics. We're deep in the work of behavioral MTSS and also now adding in chronic attendance. So when we have these meetings about students, we're talking about chronic attendance. And chronic attendance, students with chronic absences means that they're missing 10% or more of the school year. And we have quite a few on every campus. So this is an opportunity for us then to bring this back down from this level down to the individual student level and talk about Tier 2 and Tier 3 wraparound supports for students with chronic absenteeism. Next, I want to just briefly talk a little bit about behavior. This has been a struggle this year. I mean, we're just being very transparent here about the things that are happening. In our elementary schools, we're dealing with extreme behavior outbursts, especially among our younger kids, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds. And so we're working on some things, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. In secondary, just letting you know that our largest percentage of behavior incidents are about vaping, and especially vapes containing THC. So when we look overall at all of our behavioral data, that is the #1 behavior issue that we're dealing with in secondary. So a couple of our responses in elementary, we've been partnering with Emergent Tree to train our staff in just really good Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 behavior supports. So Tier 1 speaks a lot of just overall good classroom management and classroom procedures and helping that be aligned across our campuses. I think you've probably heard a lot from last year, and if you've been on any campuses this year, be safe, be responsible, be respectful. That's our Tier 1 goal for everything, and we're using the same language across every campus with every student, going from elementary to middle school. So they're hearing the same thing from campus to campus. Everything centers around being safe, being respectful, be responsible. And then what are those Tier 2 and Tier 3 behavior supports? Those kids that need that definite individualized support for behavior. So even this afternoon, we went over some of our MTSS frameworks that we've been working to put together, that tiered system of support. In our January ABC meetings with our principals, we will be talking about that pyramid. We've also had meetings with community partners. We've had some special cooperations with Rivercrest Hospital. We've met with MHMR and that team, and they're incredibly supportive. And then several times, and we had another meeting this Friday, we're meeting with the Tom Green County Sheriff's Department, who has our mental health department, and we have had mental health officers coming to our campus and helping. So that is part of the response there. In secondary, we have ordered halo sensors that are being placed in secondary restrooms. They are vaping detectors. And so when vapes are being used, it's gonna send an alert to an administrator's phone, just one more way to be on top of vaping. Also, we adjusted some programming. So it's not just about catching kids. We want to help train students on why this is a problem. And so we've bought some training modules that are part of some SEL curriculum that we have on the harmful effects of vaping, and it's mandatory. If you're in ISS or at Carver for vaping, you have to go through these training modules and learn about that. And then we've been working with Panorama to incorporate all of our data analytics so that they can really look at the overall health, SEL health of our students.
I want to add one thing On that data piece, I also want to give recognition to Michael and his team in data services because they've been working to get that up and going. We want you to know what we're doing with Panorama other than just surveys, because truly it's about a dashboard to house this information for our administrators and our teachers instead of having to go multiple places to find the information. So when they have the next ABC evidence review meetings, the secondary data might show something different from the vaping. But I also want to go back and highlight what Shelley said. We're not just trying to apply a consequence. Oh, you were caught vaping, you have this consequence. And having an understanding of what it's actually doing to them long term. Because there is a big misconception. I think you all understand that. You're seeing it on TV and commercials. But there's a real misunderstanding with parents and students alike. So we're trying to also educate and give full wraparound supports there.
So then course performance, there's so much that goes into that, but again, trying to just keep it high level. So when we talked about course performance in the elementary groups, overall, the biggest concern was that they have higher numbers than they've ever seen before of primary students with significant literacy and numeracy gaps. And so as more and more kids are coming back to school, the gaps are even wider. And so just really looking at how are we assessing growth. You've heard before about MAP testing and about M-class testing, running records for reading, continuing to be ongoing. But our principals have some real concerns about our younger kids and their gaps. In middle school, the learning gaps are really less significant overall. But our special education students and our emergent bilingual students are really experiencing some low performance. And you know, Ms. Diego was here last month talking about our EB students, our numbers continuing to grow in our ESL and emergent bilingual populations, and those students they're struggling significantly. And so we're very aware of that. In high school, increased alignment with our CCR and industry-based certifications, and I'm gonna let Dr. Gomez talk a little bit more about what that means, and also our number of reclassified students. So in other words, when you're a freshman, then you have to have a certain number of credits to be a sophomore. Well, we have kids who are old enough to be sophomores, but they don't have enough credit. So they're classified as freshmen. And so we've always had reclassified students, but we have more than ever this year. Again, all related to how they've gotten behind.
Really, in regards to CCMR, that's the work of Roxanne Fentress, Rebecca Klein, Matt Eskew, really working strategically. That is a point of pride in our district. We've shared with you the new engineering pathway. We've just signed. We'll be sharing further information with you. Shannon, we're doing something very similar in that area as well. So CCMR provides a lot of opportunities for the students in our district. I don't want to get ahead, but with state accountability, we're going to see some changes with CCMR that will also make some impacts. But truly, we have great people in the district that recognize the pathways for CCMR and students, and that's a point of pride in the district.
So then again, talking about our responses, as we are so privileged to have campus interventionists, and this board made that possible, that we would hire an interventionist for every elementary campus, we are keeping those teachers busy. But every time that I would meet with an elementary principal, they would express how valuable those interventionists are. So we're continuing with that. We're continuing to train our teachers in reading academies for the primary grades. That has gone very well. Ashley Crane and Angela are just fantastic in leading those reading academies. Can't say enough good things about the things that they have provided for our teachers. And then also just overall additional targeted support that our elementary C&I team is just going in and answering the call when there's things that need to be addressed academically. Middle school, we've hired a part-time person for emergent bilingual support. That, again, that is a growing need, so we were able to supply that. And then, again, in high school, working with Panorama survey data, I don't know why I couldn't talk all of a sudden, just to keep student motivation up, to hear what it is that they need in order to stay on track, see the value in education, and of course, ongoing with the things we've always had, like credit recovery, Saturday school, and then of course, on Fridays, that's right, Friday evening school, and then just opportunities that they will have in the summer. We are working to help these kids catch up, but it's real that they are behind.
We also wanted to give you an update on CBAS. We've had 2 meetings this first semester. Thank you. We know how busy you all are. Thank you for those of you that have been able to attend. We had a meeting in October, and we just had a meeting last week. Through that work, we surveyed the committee members to identify for us what they felt was most important. And engaged, well-rounded students was the pillar they lifted up as being the most important. So they want students that are well-rounded. And our overall work for the year will include every campus and the district as a whole producing a product by July of 2023 for our community to have, telling the story of SAISD. So that will be something new that we will have for all of you this summer. And then we'd also like to forecast for state accountability. We started this summer and gave you information for the change in the state assessment. We discussed STAR 2.0 and the redesign. With that redesign, it's important that we train our leaders and our teachers. So we have had a series of professional learning events over the course of this first semester, from professional learning for leaders and 2 professional learning series for our teachers, including content-specific training this past Friday. We had it by Reading Language Arts, Math, Science, and Special Ed, specific to the new design of the assessment. The commissioner has specifically told us scores will be received later than normal, and to be prepared for that. Typically, we come to you in August with official scores and ratings. We're being told to expect that September-ish. And also, the superintendent has been very transparent in telling superintendents and leaders it will not be an apples-to-apples comparison, and that we should be prepared for potential decreases in district ratings. So it's all potential. There's still things up for discussion, but this is what we know. We'll continue to provide you updates as we have them. Do you all have any questions that we can help answer at this time?
I just have a couple. Back to the slide on the Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 with the elementary. I think for the sake of people watching, maybe talk a little bit more about what those 3 are, because there are some people I know out there that may not know.
Sure.
Okay.
So Tier 1 would be just the general instruction. So this one's talking about behavior. So if we're talking about Tier 1 behavior, it's just like classroom management. What do we do? The whole, how does everyone act in the hallways? How does everyone act in the cafeteria, in the classroom? Tier 2 is more supplemental support. So this is a smaller group of kids, whereas Tier 1 is effective for about 85 to 90% of the kids. For Tier 2, there might be 10 to 15% who they need a little extra support. So in some of our elementaries, that looks like things such as morning check-in and afternoon check-out. So before that student would go to class, someone comes and checks in with them and says, hey, how's your morning going? Is there anything you need today? If you start, getting a little anxious or something, here's where you can find me today. And then at the end of the day, how was your day? How successful was it? Is there anything I can help you with tonight before you get ready to go? So that would be an example of a Tier 2 support. Tier 3 would be our most intensive support. Generally, students on Tier 3, it's about 5% of the student population. Many of those students would be in specialized programs, for example, our Special Education Inspire program, where they are receiving intensive support more than just an occasional pull-out, maybe more of a push-in support and then being supported in other classes. So that would be example for behavior of all 3 of those tiers.
Okay, thank you. I think I think that helps everyone understand, and I think we're doing a great job of, going to all those levels to meet the needs of that child. The other question I have is, we are MAPS testing, and tell me if I'm wrong, but this year did we start interim STAR testing? Okay. So will we continue to do both of those to find gaps and help kids along the way? Will we do both of those types of testing?
Yes, so we did a fall interim. You might hear it referred to as 2 at-bats. So that students will have 2 opportunities with the new item types. So we will do that again in the spring. And we also, when we return from break, we will begin middle of the year assessments, and MAPs are normal assessments for us.
Okay, thank you.
So are the interim stars only for this 1 year with the redesign?
Well, I can't give you a definite timeline because that's dependent on the state, but we know for sure we have them this year. Likely we'll have them in future years.
So do they know what their child scores on those interim tests so that they can work on things, or how does that?
Those scores have not been sent home because
Okay.
it was all material.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And I had one more question on your community-based accountability system. This year's last 2 meetings, or did we invite students?
We did. So we haven't done like a student Kiva yet at the meeting, but we've gone out. Mrs. Diego and I have gone out and we've interviewed students, and we have some student videos. But we will, in the spring semester, do a student showcase.
Okay.
So the first meeting we did in October, we did virtually, and this meeting we did in December, we did in person.
Okay.
But we will have a student showcase.
Or just students attending the CBAS? Yeah.
We do have some students that are serving on the council,
Okay.
yes.
All right, thank you.
You mentioned vaping being a problem. What, on our student code of conduct, what are the penalties for vaping?
That's a little complicated. It depends, first of all, on, we tiered it out, so it has to do with first offense, second offense, third offense. Also, vaping, normal vaping is different than vaping with a cake bar, which is THC, because THC is a controlled substance. So when we're talking about vapes where there's THC, then we're talking more about a DAEP offense, whereas a regular vape with just like strawberry flavoring or whatever is more nicotine kind of based, and that starts as an ISS offense and then can work its way up. So there's a whole page of how we're dealing with vape, but it is a problem, and it has caused some issues with Carver, and Dr. Skelton and Mr. Kallenbach have worked really well with Claudia Becerra on that, because we have quite a few kids over there for that particular offense.
So really, it's smoking at school again, just vaping now.
Right,
That's what it is.
until you get to the THC, and then it's...
until you get to the THC, but
Yeah.
it's the same thing that we...
Yes, sir.
So.
Kids don't smoke cigarettes much anymore, but
They vape.
they do vape.
Is
And
that
it's easier to conceal that way.
the THC problem with vaping? Is that something that's more recent, or has it just been progressing over the past few years?
It's been progressing, but it is ubiquitous now. It's just everywhere. Very easy to get and very accessible. I mean, we have places here in town who are advertising it on their billboards that they have THC. So if you're of legal age, you can buy it, but regardless of whether it's illegal for students under the age of 18, no matter what.
And I think on the THC thing, the reason they sell it at those places is because they say it's below the legal limit, but either way, you have THC in school. So you can't
Correct.
can't be doing that.
Mr. Kallenbach, is there anything that you would like to add to this? Okay. He's been working hard on this too.
I think the program that you've put in where they're going to ISS or Carver and they're having to research and read, and I think that is an amazing thing because these kids don't understand. And so to have a consequence is one thing, but then to to research and understand why we are having, because for them, it's, they say it's their right, they can vape, but we need to educate. So I love that.
They will tell you, I won't smoke a cigarette. That's gross.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mr. Cullenbach, come on up. We got a microphone.
I think
we're
what he was,
broadcasting.
yeah, you're welcome to just come say it if you want to. We were talking about how we are reducing the repeat offenders, though. That when they realize, oh, this was serious enough that I went to Carver, some of that is down. Is that way down? Yeah. But it's just the initial influx. It's been a difficult semester with a lot of that.
I'd like to ask a question also. If I understand that you're teaching them when they get to Carver, the dangers of THC and vaping, but is there a way that we can show the kids when they're in 5th grade or 6th grade what vaping does and how much more dangerous it is than cigarette smoke, and then also, of course, what THC is, so that they know maybe we can preempt it instead of having to punish them by teaching them to research it?
That's a great comment there. And with so much of behavior, the approach that we're taking with behavior is an instructional approach, because what we know is so often kids don't know. They have not been instructed. So one of the things that we are doing is that every student in the 8th grade this year, that will be part of their coursework in career pathways, which is through ADAC is coming in to help with that. And so every 8th grader will have exposure to some curriculum dealing with alcohol, drugs, vaping, tobacco, all of that. So that is something. We have not moved that down younger. It's something we might.
Because I was going to ask, is 8th grade in time?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That has come up more frequently, and unfortunately, it's because younger students are getting their hands on middle school students' vapes. There are some parents, and it's also trying to educate parents of how problematic this has become, because there's some parents that are concerned, even in middle school, of having that curriculum component. And all of our students now have that course, where it's not an optional elective any longer. So in understanding, we have to educate on how severe this is long-term, and really looking at what's the right point. I think you bring a very valid point. It could be done sooner than 8th grade.
I'm assuming there are some students, young, whatever age, that their parents are vaping to slow down cigarettes, and they think they're doing something much better than smoking cigarettes, and they're growing up in that environment to think that vaping's not maybe not that bad. So I know that that's another component of that it will have to be addressed at some point.
Yes, sir, you're exactly right. And many will say, well, we know they had a vape, we told them to leave it at home. So it's an awareness. We're working to help all the way around.
All right, one last question. As far as elementary behavior goes, as far as the disruption at the elementary level, is our tier 1, tier 2 about the same as a very small percentage in the tier 3 that is causing the uptick in disruption, or is it?
You're exactly
tier
right.
2?
It's a very small percentage of tier 3. And so the community partnerships that were mentioned on the slide have been instrumental in really getting around the table and saying, we're not talking large numbers of students, but when we've exhausted all resources, what can we do? And typically it's beyond just the student, and also the family typically needs support as well. In November, we had several really helpful meetings, and we're able to say, if we call a meeting with a parent and say, we need you here at this time with this agency, do you have a staff member that can come? And we had 3 meetings the first week back from Thanksgiving with that were very much needed to provide supports not only for the student but for the family. So we're not talking large numbers, but they need more than any one of us can provide
Thanks, both of you, for that presentation. Dr. Detloff has said he had a few comments on our partnership with Goodfellow Air Force Base.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Parker. Just a quick comment or two in regard to our incredible partnership with Goodfellow Air Force Base. We had the privilege, it was a brunch, I suppose, this morning, to attend a brunch with the spouse of General Charles Brown, who is the 4-star General Chief of Staff of the entire United States Air Force. And in that meeting, we had an opportunity to show her and Goodfellow, again, the partnerships that we have created with all of our systems and entities that involve higher ed, the Air Force Base, our medical facilities, and she left gleaming and said that we have an incredible partnership, and she wishes other bases and cities across the nation would emulate what San Angelo ISD and our city does. So it was a very productive meeting. It went extremely well, and we were honored to visit with her, and she was simply delightful. I'll end on that.
All right, now we'll get in some of our agenda where we have some action items. We'll start with our consent items. We have 3 items that we considered last week and discussed and placed on this consent list. First is consider revisions to board policy CO local. Second, consider superintendent's recommendations for personnel. And third, consider updates to the 2022-2023 compensation plan and pay plan change. Do I hear a motion to approve those consent items?
Move for approval of consent items A through C.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Dindal, a second by Dr. Kingman. Is there any other board discussion? Is there any public comment? If not, all in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Motion passes. Mr. Henry, you're up now for consider bid number 22-027 on access control.
Thank you for having me here tonight. Tonight I bring you bid 22-027, access control. During the evaluation of campuses for our security upgrades, it was determined that we needed to add access control to our campuses. We enlisted the help of Crux Technology and Security to build the bid specifications and create the needed drawings. This will be a multi-phase project, with the first phase beginning at Central High School and the second phase being all of the elementary campuses. Central's substantial completion date is May 26th, and the elementary phase would be completed by July 14th. We received 2 competitive bids on this project. A committee scored all responses, and Alderman Inc. was the bidder with the highest score and the proposed lowest cost of $623,257.74. This included a $100,000 owner's contingency. Alderman Inc. is a San Antonio-based company. They've been in existence for 100 years, and they have 1,500 employees in 5 locations. We checked their references, and they had a A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. I also talked to White and Turner. They're a general contractor, and they did. Alderman did work for them at the USAA executive offices and the UTSA dorms. They did access control, cameras, intercoms, and just regular electrical work as well. And they gave them a great reference. I also spoke with the San Antonio Water System head of security, and Alderman did all of their camera work there, and he said they were great to work with and did a great job as well. Their ISD reference that I called was Northside ISD. Since 2018, Alderman has done over $6 million worth of projects with Northside ISD. This includes access control at 29 locations, 1,600 cameras at 44 campuses in 6 months, and 1,400 cameras at 28 campuses in 6 months. The administration recommends contracting with Alderman Inc. of San Antonio for the installation of access control at Central High School and all of the elementary campuses, with the option to add additional work as needed. You all have any questions?
Any questions, board team? We did discuss this last week, and rather than put it on the consent agenda, we had asked Mr. Henry to come back because we wanted our public to know that what we were doing with our security and safety and by installing these access controls. So I appreciate you being here, Mr. Henry. Do I hear any motion to approve?
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Mr. Dindal has made a motion, seconded by Dr. Kingman. Is there any other board discussion? Any public comment? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you again. All right, Dr. Gomez, you're up on our annual consideration of our district calendar.
Okay, as shared with you in Friday Facts, two options, option A and option B, were presented to our CBAS and District Site-Based Committee, and also with our administrators. So the administration's recommendation is to go with option A with a slight revision. So we took feedback. Overwhelmingly, option A had the most positive feedback. We've listened long and hard to teachers, and teachers have shared they need time to work on the work. You see the addition of new language that's referred to instructional planning. So there are 4 instructional planning days built in option A. And instructional planning days would be just that, days for teachers to plan for that quarter. Time where they can work on the work. Not professional learning days. There are still professional learning days on the calendar. We have industry standards. Just like last Friday, we had professional learning. We have to stay current. Those are separate, so this would give teachers time to plan. Our goal is for them to have less work to take home. On option B, the positive feedback received was graduation over Memorial Day weekend. So that's why the administration's recommendation to you is option A with 1 revision. That 1 revision is a senior-only calendar where seniors graduate on Saturday, May 25th, and they don't return the 4 days after. So seniors release early, and everyone else releases May 31st. So the only thing that would be modified on your option A is the June 1 graduation. So again, everything else would remain the same.
Dr. Gomez, would you review, I know in your research, our team looked at other districts that have a special senior calendar. Would you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, that is not uncommon for other districts to have a senior-only calendar. Some do it as early as 2 weeks. We didn't feel that 2 weeks was necessary, and even speaking with our high school principals, there are some advantages of the Friday before collecting materials, devices from the seniors, and only having to work through that with your seniors only and not your underclassmen. And that way you get that done, them graduated, and then take care of all your other students the following week. So we did look at other districts that have that same practice. And also, our overall goal in SAISD is to produce future-ready graduates, so we definitely want to see them graduate and be successful, but we also want to close out the rest of the campus.
So, Dr. Gomez, many of us in this room have had our own students graduate from SAISD schools, and typically, at least in the past, that last week of school was really almost just clean up,
yes.
Get their credits are earned.
Yes.
They've already graduated, their class credits are earned, they've achieved the required number of hours and minutes through the course of the year. And so it is really helpful, is what
It is.
I'm
It also
determining.
helps with the number of students that we have that are in dual credit classes that more closely aligns to those students with that schedule. Now, not all students have that schedule, but we do have a large number that do participate, so that is more aligned as well. So it gives us the ability to accommodate teachers with building in those instructional planning days, which if we build those in, we do have to work them, and so that's why we do have the 4 days on that calendar, but it allows us to provide that balance there, to give teachers the time to work on the work, but also to recognize and celebrate our students with that graduation over the holiday weekend.
And another thing, Dr. Gomez, just for our parents, occasionally we are able to end school on Memorial Day weekend, but like last year, Memorial Day weekend was May 31st. And so this year it is an earlier Memorial Day weekend, which is also contributing to our kids going back to school after Memorial Day.
Farah, how does that work with finals? So seniors would take their finals the week before they graduate, and then the rest of the kids would take their finals after? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Some other things I'd like to just point out on the calendar that have been super important that we wanted to make sure that were maintained was in the month of October. You will see that we do still have a holiday in professional learning. October and February, just from in education, have been times where staff and students need a break built in. So that was something that was very important on both calendars, and that was feedback received. Then also, you'll see where the winter holiday falls in 2023. We always give families and staff 10 days in the holiday, so that is still built in. Something new on the calendar is when they return, there is a full instructional planning day and a professional learning day. Whereas this year even, we come back on January 2nd. So sometimes when you've been out and you come straight back, Ms. Duncan, I know that you can relate to that. That's sometimes jumping straight in. So that was very positively received. Also, where Easter falls in 2024, it falls early on the calendar. So you'll see that Good Friday is March 29th, which would make April a very long month if something was not built in the calendar. So you'll see that there is an instructional planning day and a holiday built in April, or there would have been 8 straight weeks where there was no break for students or staff before the end of the school year. And I know that those of you that were in that CBS district site-based meeting, that was a comment that came up.
I just wanted to add that one of the things that we talked about at our table at the community-based accountability meeting was the importance of those instructional days, meeting like no meetings, no
Absolutely.
PLCs, just time for the teachers to work on their curriculums, work on their planning, work on their rooms. And so the teachers that were there were very passionate about the need for that.
Yes, and we had a number of teachers and staff in that meeting. Yes, ma'am.
Well, just to be clear for anybody that's watching, I'll go through some of these dates. We would start school on August the 17th.
Yes.
And then we would have, the students would have the full week off for Thanksgiving. And then for Christmas holiday, they would have an early dismissal on the 20th and not come back. They'd be out the rest of December, and then the first week of January wouldn't return until January 8th. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, sir.
And then spring break would be, they would be out the week of March the 10th. And then school last day of school, for those that seniors, it would be the last day would be the 24th, I guess, but for the rest of the students, it's the 31st. So the things that have been important in the past to parents is when we started school, and that we would be out before June 1st, which we will accomplish that. They'd have a full week off for Thanksgiving, 10 days or more for Christmas holiday. And I think the one thing that you didn't mention, and we haven't talked about it for a while, but do they do all their finals before Christmas?
Yes.
We don't come back. I know there was a
Yes.
few years that we were
Yes.
coming back after Christmas. So we've accomplished all those things in this calendar.
Yes. Also, additionally, with our partnership with Angelo State University, we always coordinate our spring breaks. So the spring break matches Angelo State spring break as well.
All right, thank you.
One other thing, Mr. Parker, I'd like to mention, and with feedback, we have had a 3-day start the last couple of years. And for the younger students, everyone getting in routine, even 3 days, parents and families will comment, they come home and they're wiped out. So this has a 2-day start, letting families have a couple of days to start before a full 5-day start. That was based on feedback as well.
All right, so the 17th and 18th of August are a Thursday and Friday.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, is there any other board questions?
As a retired teacher, I want to say that calendar sounds amazing to me. For one, I agree with the 2 days. We used to call it the regrouping. You go 2 days, the kids are exhausted, they're learning everything, then you have the weekend to regroup and start good on Monday. And the instructional days, as a parent also, we don't want our children to do busy work. So in order for the work to be important, purposeful, and have an end goal, we must allow teachers time to work on that. So thank you for giving them those days to plan for the semester. I think that is important to them, but as a parent, we will see the work being more intentional. So thank you.
Right. Well, I will make the motion on this to recommend that we approve the 2023-2024 SAISD district calendar option A that's been outlined by Dr. Gomez.
Second.
Right, I've made a motion. Mr. Gallegos has seconded it. Is there any other board discussion? Is there any public comment? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you, Doctor. All right, Dr. Gomez sits down. Dr. Bright comes up. You're on the agenda, Dr. Bright, for 3 things that have to do with something we do every 10 years, and that is have to look at whether we need to redistrict any of our single-member trustee districts.
Sure, thank you. We do have 3 items to look at tonight. The first one is a discussion of information regarding the redistricting of single-member trustee election districts. And just for a little background, at the conclusion of each federal census, school districts that elect some or all of their board members in a single-member district format are required to evaluate the population of their single-member districts to determine if there have been any excessive population imbalances between now and the last census, which was 2010. Obviously, there has been, or we wouldn't be up here talking about it tonight. Last spring, the district contracted with a demographer named Mr. Bob Bass, and he's out of Austin and does this regularly. And he identified several deviations in our boundaries that require us to move some of the boundary lines. Not only to balance the populations back out, but it's a little trickier than that. You must also maintain minority voting strengths where there are single-member districts that have what they call a minority-majority status. And we have 2 of them in our school district, a single-member district 2 and 6. So that is part of his evaluation as well. So just a little bit of the timeline. In October, I think the board looked at some preliminary maps and made some suggestions to changes. In November, Mr. Bass came and spoke to you at a pre-agenda meeting and shared more of the maps with you. And then in December, at the pre-agenda, we looked at them one more time last week to determine if y'all were okay with the final draft that he supplied. So tonight, we're ready to actually complete the process. And if y'all would like to make any discussion or comments there to add what we've already talked about, that would be great. And if not, then we'll be ready to move on to the next item.
I know we've discussed this several times, Board, but as I'm reading through this, as Dr. Bright has mentioned, we have there's 3 parts of this. I'll kind of jump ahead, but 1, we have discussion. Secondly, after discussion, we'll have a second agenda item, which has to do with public comment. And then the third part, after we do both of those, then we'll have consideration and possible action item to go ahead and vote on it. So at this point, it's just our discussion of if the board has any other questions or other discussion. And if not, we'll go to public comment.
Thank you. There were a number of required notices that we were to put into the newspaper, which we did. And so at this point, we're ready to conduct a public hearing regarding the redistricting of our single-member districts. And I don't see a whole lot of people here tonight that are going to step up and speak. So if anybody doesn't wish to speak, I'd ask that we close the public hearing and move on to the action.
Dr. Bright, there were minor adjustments in the boundary lines of the single-member districts this year, so it's not a huge controversy in anything that's changing drastically in the addition or subtraction of districts that are changing from one single-member district to the other.
Now there were a couple that were really out of balance, and he had to make some shifts. But I think that as far as I'm 100% sure that no one that's sitting on the board right now is changing single-member districts. You're all still in the one you are now. We'll just have to make sure that our constituents know if a line moved, if they're in 5 or 4 or however that goes. And we'll take care of that once we get all this approved.
And I think the public needs to also understand this is not, this is just for the trustee where the single member districts are placed for the actual trustees. This is not going to affect where students go to school or where they would end up going to middle school or high school. It's just for the trustee elections to know where the boundary lines will be, so you'll know whether you're voting for trustee district 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that type of thing. And so there were some districts that were a little bit out of whack, but it wasn't like there were many blocks or many sections that were having to change that much from, at least in my opinion, of reading it. So I didn't want anybody to think that by what we vote on now is going to change where your children would go to elementary school, middle school, or high school.
Absolutely. Everyone good? Okay, so we'll move on to the next item, which is to consider and possibly take action regarding the changes to these single-member districts. And under the guidance and direction of Mr. Bass, he has provided us 2 resolutions to approve tonight. And one of them, I think, has something to do with us meeting with him in November, and the other one is actually the action to take to change the boundaries. And so with that, we'd ask that you look at the recommended board action and see if we can get a motion.
I have read it, and I don't mind making the motion again. You're exactly right. One is a resolution that just we approve the facts, the finding of facts of the things that we've discussed and were recommended from the earlier meeting, and then the second one has to do with adopting the redistricting plan which was option A, the one we looked at before. So I will make the motion that we approve both the finding of facts resolution and resolution for adopting the redistricting plan as has been presented.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Parker, second by Mr. Gallegos. Is there any other discussion by the board? Is there any public comment? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Bright. And now Dr. Skelton gets to come up.
Mr. Parker, Dr. Detloff, members of the board, thanks for giving us the opportunity to come to you to present a proposal for compensation adjustment for a job family that's clerical and professional, the paraprofessional job family. As you know, over the summer, you guys did do an increase in pay for all job families, but we're specifically looking at the clerical and paraprofessional right now in the pay grades of 401, 402, 402A and 403. And what we've noticed in reviewing the exit surveys and talking to educational aides who've requested job changes to substitute teacher positions, and in questioning candidates who've just denied or declined our offers in employment, we've learned that the pay ranges in these pay grades are not competitive, equitable with other positions, and sufficient to attract and keep quality staff. So these are the things that we have been hearing, and even just recently, we've had today one person decline a position in this job family because of pay, and we've had 2 leave. And so now we haven't talked to them in their exit surveys, but may or may not hear that it's the compensation. So what we're looking at is in this pay grades, these are the positions, and it may be a little small, but this is pulled from our compensation plan on the website, and these are the positions that are involved in this compensation proposal. We're starting with child care aides, instructional aides, library aides, mail and delivery, inventory clerk, campus receptionists, the campus office aides, degreed instructional aides. Pay grade 402A is more special education, our specialized units, and as you know, that pay grade was an increase because they are specialized units, working with our Inspire students, working with our self-contained functional academic students, and then of course, instructional aides in the bilingual program. Our 403 pay grade is a little bit more clerical work. As you can tell, it's our associate principal secretaries, assistant principal secretaries, our CMAs, certified medical assistants, counselor secretaries, data clerk, principal secretaries, purchasing clerks, more of the clerical work. So what our proposal is and you saw this in the Friday Facts a while back, is that we're looking to take, what we did was we looked at the hourly rate of $10.11 and we bumped it to $11.25. Now we know that when we do a bump, and we don't increase the top end, and we're only looking at 401, 402, and 403, we have a problem with compression. We can compress all of these salary or hourly rates, and so we had to work within that to try to make that the compensation work to where, you know, if you are in 401, moving to 402 still is a promotion, moving to 403 is a promotion, to 404 is a promotion. So that was our challenge to doing that. And so we were looking at moving the pay grades, but also having a significant jump between the pay scale. So as you can tell, 401 is proposed to have a minimum of 1125, which would make our midpoint 407, then which would push our midpoint of 402 to 1519, pushed our midpoint to 403 to 1562, and then of course our 402 is a little bit higher compensation because of the specialized units that they're working in. So when we did this proposal, this distribution, we created the distribution chart, and it just came out to be orange and blue. I didn't make it that way. But the blue is the current pay rate of our employees within the different pay ranges, and then the orange is what it would look like in the proposed where they would bump up. And compression was a big piece of it. We didn't want to compress those ranges to give a difference between a 0-year person and a 15, 20, 30-year experienced person in that same position. That's all I have.
Jason,
do you have any questions? Yes, sir.
In our Friday Facts, I believe, but I don't have it in front of me, the cost to the district for doing these pay raises across the board?
So it was proposed to be $140,000. Not all of that's coming out of our general fund. Some of it will come out of Title I, bilingual, special education. So out of the 140, we're looking at about 100,000 coming out of general fund. Yeah.
Unless someone else has questions, I'll make a motion for us to approve the compensation adjustments as presented by Dr. Skelton.
Second. I have a motion by Dr. Kingman, a second by Mr. Dindal to approve this agenda item. Is there any other board discussion? Is there any public comment? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Skelton. Now, I don't know. You're up again?
I'm
You
up
got it
again.
Okay.
One more agenda item, and this one we don't like to come up to talk to the board about this, but every so often we do have to ask that you consider and take possible action on requesting sanctions for a teacher. And in this case, we had a teacher in a specialized unit that put our campus and our students in a hardship, trying to take care of them. So I'm going to read to you the background story with this, and then ask for that y'all consider and take action.
Dr. Skelton, before you begin with the background,
Yes, sir.
As you mentioned in your previous comments, this is something that that we started taking to our Board of Trustees per law a few years ago, and unfortunately we have seen abandonment of contracts, and again we want to look out for each individual student and classroom and try to ensure the continuity of teaching in those classrooms. The information you'll hear here is required. So I just want to reiterate that we are required by law to list some of the information and details that Dr. Skelton will provide you, and this is necessary as part of these action steps.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification. So the backstory is Christine Dixon submitted her resignation via email to Dr. Jason Skelton, Executive Director of Human Resources, and to her principal, Ms. Patricia Hartman, on Saturday, November 12, 2022, for her date of resignation effective December 2nd, 2022, based on personal reasons and health concerns. Latonia Sutton, Director of Human Resources, contacted Ms. Dixon requesting certification from her treating physician to establish good cause for release for her contract. Ms. Dixon emailed a letter from her doctor to Dr. Skelton on Thursday, November 17, 2022. The letter did not establish good cause for release in accordance with the State Board of Education, which states, number one, serious illness or health condition of an educator or close family member of the educator. Number two, relocation to a new city as a result of a change in employer of the educator's spouse or partner who resides with the educator. Number three, significant change in the educator's family needs that require the educator to relocate or devote more time than allowed by current employment. Or number four, the educator's reasonable belief that the educator had written permission from the school district administration to resign. Dr. Skelton emailed Ms. Dixon on Thursday, November 17th, stating that her resignation was not accepted. On Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022, Ms. Dixon sent an email to Ms. Hartman stating, since my resignation was rejected, the December 2nd date doesn't seem valid. I will not be coming in anymore. My health cannot sustain a prolonged search for a replacement. On Monday, November 28th, Ms. Dixon returned her district-issued keys, badge, laptop, and other district items to Ms. Hartman. It is determined that Ms. Dixon has abandoned her employment contract, which has created a hardship for the campus and the district. Ms. Dixon has been notified that this information would be presented to the Board of Trustees for consideration of abandonment of contract on Monday, December 12, 2022, in the regular school board meeting. Ms. Dixon was once again notified that she has not been released from her contract with SAISD and should continue to report to work daily. So at this time, we ask that you consider and take possible action on requesting sanctions on the teacher certification for abandonment of contract.
I was just going to point out, as Dr. Detloff said, obviously as a board we don't like to take sanctions on our teachers, but contracts work beneficially to both the school district and the teachers who sign the contracts. And so in order for that trust to exist between the two parties, if someone abandons and does not fulfill their obligation, we do have to look at things such as sanctioning their contract.
And also, if it hadn't already been mentioned, in this climate that we have right now with the shortage of teachers, we're not able to just find a replacement. It's not like, okay, we've got 3 people waiting in line for this job. So we have students that do not have a teacher, that we set up this class knowing that we had a teacher with a contract that would be teaching that class. So it does cause a hardship for our district, and it causes a hardship for our teachers. And unfortunately, if we let this one slide, then we could have other teachers that would expect the same type of precedent for them. So we are having to be a little bit more hard-nosed about this than maybe we were 10 years ago on some of these. So at any rate, anybody else have comments? And if not, then anybody want to make the motion?
I'll make a motion that good cause did not exist for Christine Dixon to abandon her employment contract and to authorize the superintendent to submit a written request to the TEA, Texas Education Agency, to sanction the teacher's certificates for abandonment of contract.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Gallegos and a second by Dr. Kingman on this particular agenda item. Is there any other board discussion? Is there any public comment?
Just a comment. It's like Dr. Kingman stated earlier, this is one thing that we do not want to do, but we have to do. And it's been approved by the TEA that just recently, a year ago, 2 years ago, that, like Mr. Parker said, our current climate, that we have to find a way to handle this. So that's it.
Any public comment? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion passes. And that concludes our the matters that we have on our agenda. We do not have to go in executive session tonight, so let me just mention our announcements and then we'll adjourn. We have the PACE graduation on December 14th at Sarah Barnhart Theater. That's at 6 p.m. And Ms. Mizell Flint will be accepting the class, but all board members are encouraged and welcome to attend. It's always a very touching ceremony. And then we have our finance and pre-agenda workshop January 9th. And if all goes well, we will have a short executive session to start looking over our evaluation of our superintendent. That's when our policies when we need to start this, and then we'll have a regular board meeting on January 17th. And so we won't be meeting again before Christmas, so everyone have a Merry Christmas. And with that, I'll adjourn our meeting.